Hopefully, like I said, this is the OneDrive collaboration across Microsoft 365 talk. Get into things in just a moment, but hopefully you were in the right place. Just to kind of kick things off, hi everyone, my name is Stephen Rice. So I'm a principal product manager here on the OneDrive team. My pronouns are he and him. If you're interested in connecting on LinkedIn, you can find me there. I am also one of the co-hosts of the SyncUp podcast. I discovered when you host a podcast, you are obligated to mention it every single chance you get a chance. So I apologize, it'll come up once or twice today. We've got some SyncUp beanies we can give away as we get to the end as well. But super excited to be here with you all today, and I'm joined by Michael.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming to our talk. My name is Michael Pierce. I'm a principal design manager at OneDrive. Thanks for joining us. So first plug, not the only one. If you're interested in listening to SyncUp, definitely recommend. So this is the official podcast for the OneDrive team. We talk about new features, take you behind the scenes. Personal favorite episode of mine, we did an episode with our design team actually, Michael, talking about all of our colored folders experiences, how we picked all of the colors that showed up. It's an awesome podcast. Hashtag ad, done for the moment though. So agenda for today, we are talking about collaboration inside of Microsoft 365. There are really three pillars when it comes to collaboration. We want collaboration to be simple. It needs to be easy to use. It needs to help people get their work done. Number two, collaboration needs to be smart. It needs to help people become more productive, get their job done easier, less time, less effort. And then we're going to talk about how to keep your content secure, how collaboration helps both your users and your admins maintain security over your content, collaborate with the people you need to, and no one else. So we're going to start off with simple, and I'll hand it over to Michael to get things going. Okay, so let's get into simple. And with that, we're going to talk about simple sharing. First, I'm going to take you through our journey. Let's go back in time a little bit and look at the three big eras that we've done with sharing improvements in the dialogue. This is the first era. It was around coherence. It was bringing the same sharing experience to OneDrive, SharePoint, and Office. Who was here around this time? Raise your hand. Wow, a lot of you. That's great. Let's go ahead and fast forward to 2019. This was the era of customer improvement. So this is where we listened to all of you, listening to all that incredible feedback you shared with us. And that's when we brought things such as the quick access permission switcher, and also a quick look into who has access, which is that bottom piece that also gets you into managed access. Who was here around this time? Who remembers that version? Quite a few of you. Okay, so now I want to talk about where we're at right now, 2023, 2024. This is the era of simplification. Now, before I show you this design, I want you to know that we're working incredibly hard, always, all the time, to work and make this super simple. It's simple by default and powerful on demand. Here it is. The sharing experience, I want you all to know, is used nearly 1 billion times a month. As you first come into the sharing dialog, this is the to field. This is where you can add somebody, put their name or email address, and hit send, and they'll immediately have access to the file. I'll give you a demo of this to show you how simple it is in one moment. We also have the copy link button, as well as sharing settings. This is where you go if you need to get a link that you want to drop into an email or chat for Teams. And finally, as I mentioned before, a quick look at access. You can always tap on this if you need more details, and this will take you into manage access. Okay, so now I'm going to show you just how easy it is. So here we are, we're going to share with Alex. Go to the file, I select share, I type in Alex's name, it quickly finds Alex based on the graph. If I want, I can add a little message to go with that. And then just like that, it's on its way and Alex now has access. Simple. Simple by default, powerful by demand. Okay, so let's go into the power now. And then we're going to talk about sharing settings. This is where you can choose who the link will work for, specify the permissions such as view, edit, or review. And for some link types, you can even add an expiration date as well as a password. To get to these settings, just click on the gear icon. Now I want to go into the first setting here, anyone. This means this link will work for anyone inside or outside of your organization.
and it won't require them to sign in. No Microsoft account needed. I think of this a lot like an attachment, but it's got more power because you can always remove that link and take away access whenever you want. Now we have the next setting, people in your organization. This is how you can share in a way to people within your organization, but have the peace of mind that it can't be accessed outside of your organization. This is a great way that if you're emailing many people in your organization, or if you need to drop that link into a large channel or chat. Existing access. This is a common way to share if you've ever shared with someone already, or if you're in a document library in SharePoint, and you just need to give somebody that quick pointer. And then finally, existing access. This only works for those who you choose, and it's an easy way to share with those inside or outside of your organization. And you can feel confident that it only works for those you choose. Learn it once, use it everywhere. So this is really important. We've brought sharing to all the applications. I'm going to quickly show you that. Same sharing experience everywhere. So of course, we're here in OneDrive. Here in File Explorer, you see it's the same. Of course, here in SharePoint, same. Word, yep, you guessed it, it's the same. Excel, same. PowerPoint, exactly the same. When you're sharing those sweet diagrams in Visio, same. We all know you like to share in Teams. Yep, that's right, it's the same. After an intense whiteboard session, yep, same. We've also integrated into Outlook. One of my favorite apps, Loop. And when you start your day in the Microsoft 365 app. As you can see, we are serious. Learn it once, use it everywhere. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Stephen for another demo.
So collaboration isn't just about internal, inside of your organization. We also have needs of collaborating outside your organization as well. So I'm going to show you how that works in our product and show you just how simple it is, both from the sharer's perspective and from the recipient's perspective. So once again, you start inside of OneDrive, you're going to start in our share experience, wherever it might be, and you're going to type in the name of that external recipient. In this case, I'm going to share with michaelpierce@gmail.com. And yes, you'll note he's not a Microsoft 365 customer, he's a complete consumer user. The share experience flags that it's sharing externally and lets me know. It helps me make sure I didn't mistype it, I am intending to share outside the company. Can type in a message once again, let Michael know what the document is all about, what's going on, and then click send. And when you do, OneDrive will craft up an email, send it off to Michael, and be good to go. So let's switch over to the recipient experience, because this is where the challenges usually pop up. Once again, we're starting in Gmail. Michael's not a Microsoft 365 customer, but he's still going to be able to access content. He's going to validate the email address that was shared to, and then he's actually going to authenticate with a one-time passcode. He doesn't have to create an account. He doesn't have to create a password. It's just going to send a code to his email account, the one that was shared to. He'll retrieve that code and then use that to log in. So he copies the code out of his email, flips back over to our login screen, authenticates, proves he's the person that he was shared to, and is able to access the content and start collaborating. And this is really the power of the external sharing feature set that we have in OneDrive and SharePoint. It works for everyone, whether they're a Gmail user, a consumer user, a Microsoft account user, or an M365 user. If they have an account, they just log in with their creds. If they don't have an account, they go through this one-time passcode experience and access the content. Now, another scenario that Michael kind of mentioned that is quite common is the need to share inside of Teams. You grab a link, you paste it in Teams, and you're sending it to your colleagues. Let me show you how we're making that experience smarter too. I've copied a link, I pasted it inside of Teams. Teams and OneDrive are able to recognize that, hey, the link you pasted isn't going to work for this audience. It'll flag that and let me know. And I can open up our share experience and change to a link type that'll work for this audience, whether it's people inside of the company or people in this chat. You can secure the content the way you need to and make sure it'll just work. So as you just saw, inside of Teams, you paste a link. If it's not going to work for that audience, Teams will recognize that, let you know, and help you change it to something that'll work. And we have the exact same experience inside of Outlook as well. You grab a link, you paste it into an email that you're composing. If it doesn't work for the recipients, Outlook will flag it, let you know, and help you fix it. It's a way to make sure the collaboration always works regardless of how you work. Now, we also updated our managed access experience over this last year as part of our mission to make sharing easier than ever. So let's walk through the 3 pieces of the new managed access experience. First up is the people view. We wanted to make sure that it was crystal clear at all times who has access to your content. So when you come in to manage access, you'll see a flat list of all of the people who have access to your content, whether they're accessing via a link, via direct access, wherever it might be. You can see their permissions and then click into a deeper view and help manage their access if needed. You'll also see a groups tab. So if you're sharing with large groups, if you're part of a SharePoint site, you can easily see all of those in one place, separated, so that you don't get confused if it's a user, a group, or whatever it might be. And finally, there's a links tab. So you can see all of the sharing links that have been created and manage, delete them, change them as needed. So the question we often get is, what actually happens when you share? We've talked through the user experiences, what that looks like. So I'm going to walk you through a slightly technical, but not really, diagram of what happens when a user shares a file. So you have a file. It's awesome. Every file has what's called an access control list, or an ACL for short. And the ACL is how people get access to your content. You put them on the ACL, gives them access to the content. So, for example, let's say I've got Bob here, and I need to share a file with Bob. As Michael showed you, you just type in Bob's email address, and it adds him directly onto the ACL for that file. And using that, Bob can access the link, get to the file, edit, leave comments, and let me know what he thinks about it. And as Michael described, we also support sharing links. Sharing links are kind of like a key. They also live on the ACL. But the magic of a sharing link is that it is a transferable, revocable secret key. Now, what does that mean? It's transferable. Because it's a key, I can pass it from person to person, and as long as they meet the requirements of the link, they're able to use it to access. It's revocable, because I can remove that key at any time, and everyone who's using it will lose access to the file. And it's secret, because you must possess the key, the link, in order to be able to access content. Now, I want to re-emphasize that, because this is one of the most common questions we've gotten about sharing, particularly in this age of Copilot. If I have a link that works for people inside of my company, but it hasn't been sent to anyone, no one can use that link to access content. You have to send them the link, whether it's through the share dialog, through Teams, through Outlook, whatever it might be. Only when you've sent them the link and they've clicked on it are they able to access content, find it in search, find it in Copilot, and any of those types of experiences. So I have a link. I want to give the link to Alice. Alice can access it. She uses the link to get access to the content. She's good to go, and she can access it. The magic of links is that Alice can pass that link on to other people. And again, as long as they meet those requirements, they can all party on my document, give me feedback, let me know what's going on. And as I said, the magic of sharing is that you can revoke access and re-secure your document at any time. If I want to, say, remove Alice's access, if the link got out of control, it got shared more broadly than I intended, all I do is remove it from the ACL. And when that happens, the key gets destroyed, the link gets destroyed, and Alice and all of her group will lose access to my content. And the same is true for Bob. Remove Bob from the ACL, and he's also going to lose access to the document. And my file is now secure again. Now, this is my PM walkthrough of what sharing looks like under the covers. It's not fancy like all of Michael's designs usually are, but hopefully this helped you understand what happens when you go into the share experience and start collaborating with others. Now, let's talk about some of the quality of life improvements we've made to sharing and are making in the coming months. First up, we've introduced a guided tutorial into our sharing experience. So unfortunately, we've tried, but it turns out Michael and I cannot give this talk to every single person who comes and wants to collaborate inside of Microsoft 365. As Michael mentioned, there's about 1 billion shares per month. We don't have that much time. So we did the next best thing. We built an experience inside of the sharing dialog that helps walk users through how sharing works, what's going on, what options are available, and how to be successful. Now, the nice part is, because this is the same share dialog across all of M365, it doesn't matter whether users start in File Explorer, Office, Office.com, OneDrive, they'll still get this guided experience the first time they show up in the share experience. And if they ever want to see it again, there's a little icon in the upper right corner, a little question mark that they can go to and do it again. And this is nice, not just because it helps users be successful, but it helps save all of you time as well. You can spend less time training them, more time focused on the key important details that you need to work through. Next up, next improvement we're making. We want to improve the resharing experience inside of Microsoft 365. So there's a common problem today where users will get view permission and they're not actually allowed to share by design. We want to keep sharing to only people who have edit permission. But if you have view permission, sometimes you need to reshare the file but don't have an easy way to do so. Even though you had a link, you have it in your email, you could forward it to other people, but if you're not thinking about it, you go to the share experience and you get a dead end. No more. So we're making some improvements inside of the share dialog so that it knows when you have a link that you've already used, and it'll help you grab that link so you can forward it along to other people without having to leave the experience. It's a nice little time saver for people who don't have permission to share but still need to forward the links that they already have access to. This improvement is coming soon. And just like we're improving the experience inside of the share dialog, we're doing the same inside of Teams as well. This comes up most commonly with meeting recordings. Meeting recordings are locked down by default. They are locked to only the people in the meeting, but sometimes you need to send that recording to other people. We're improving the dialog for these experiences to make it a little bit easier for you to request that the owner share the file with the people that you need access to. So if I had a meeting that I was in, Michael recorded it, and I need to share it with Tyler or others, now I can go into the dialog, type in Tyler's name, and it'll send off a message to Michael to let him know that it needs to be shared with him. This is another great feature that we're really excited about. We think it'll help improve some of those dead-end type experiences in sharing, and that one is also coming in just the next couple of months. Now, this is another popular one. I got this question literally an hour ago at the booth. We have long supported expiration on anyone links inside of our share experience. I'm excited to tell you we will now export expiration on other link types as well, including people in my organization links and specific people links. So your users will be able to go into the share dialog and add an expiration, send it out to people, and be confident that when that expiration time comes up, everyone will lose access and the link will no longer work for people. Thank you. Yeah, this one's exciting. This is, like I said, one of the most common requests I think we've gotten since we introduced expiration. So this one will be coming out in the next couple of months. Before you ask, because I know you're going to, because everyone does, the next question we always get is, great, you've given the ability to expire company links, but I need to expire those automatically as an IT admin. Don't worry, that is coming soon after. We know you want it, and we want to deliver that too. So that is how we are making sharing simple. We walked through both the dialogue experience, all of the power that's available when you need it, some of the new quality of life improvements we're making, and now I'm going to turn it back over to Michael to talk about how we're making sharing smarter than ever.
Okay, so let's talk about all of the ways we're making working with others smarter. Okay, so here we are in the sharing dialog, and I'd like to draw your attention to the Copilot icon that's now in the sharing dialog as you watch this. This Copilot feature saves you time by giving you an option to add a quick summary so that the recipients can get a little bit more context before they even open the full document. Okay, now I'm going to demo File Request. File Request is a feature that I use when working with others, especially those outside of the company, when I need them to upload files to a specific folder. Now, as a designer, I'm often asking for different logo files from different clients, and I use this all the time because I can send out the request, they can add them, but they won't see any of the other logo files that others have uploaded. So let's get into the demo. Here I am, I'm in OneDrive. I'm going to select the folder in which I want the files to be added to. I choose Request Files from the top. Here I add a quick little request name. Then I'll go down, I'll add the person that I want to send that request to. Add a short message if I want to. Okay, the request is on its way. Now, here the request has come in. You can see it's come into the inbox. You can see that it's asking Alex to upload a file. Goes in, chooses upload, chooses the file. Just like that, it's uploaded. And now let me show you what the person that initiated the request sees. As you can see in their OneDrive, the file has been added. Didn't have to sort of go back and forth in email. I know there's a lot of people that are doing this, right? Multiple emails, trying to wrangle all those email attachments. This is going to save you so much time. And now we know that this is a critical and essential workflow for many organizations. So I'm happy to share with you that we're going to make it so that you can bring your brand to these requests as well. This is going to make it a lot more professional feeling. You're going to be able to add your company's logo, backgrounds, and if you ask, maybe some fonts here or there. We'll see. Coming later this year. Okay, so now let's talk about File Viewer. The File Viewer is used all day in organizations, as you can use it to view over 300 file types. With so much usage, our team really leaned in, and we were making it even better. So here's the new File Viewer. It's 2 times faster and more powerful than before. And it's designed for collaboration and focus. As you can see, we have this new dark mode, which improves readability and reduces eye strain while you read all of those documents. This sleek dark mode not only enhances the viewing experience, but also allows those rich colors pop on your high-density displays. We've also simplified commanding, making it even easier to get to the commands that you use day in and day out. Also, make it easier to get to those premium commands. And we've also integrated Copilot. Oops, spoiler. We've integrated the Collab Coiner, which has things, if you're used to, like presence, as well as a quick way to share, and access to the AI features. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to use this new feature that's come out recently called Request More Access. For this scenario, imagine you've gotten a link and you only have view access. So you're reading this PDF, you see something that's not quite right, you want to make a change, but normally what you do is you email the owner, right, back and forth. No more, we're going to make that flow even easier. So let's watch. Here we are. We open up the PDF, again in File Viewer in OneDrive. You can request access right from that view. Here you can ask for the permission and what you need and send that off. Now, the owner automatically will get an email, and the owner can then decide what type of access to grant. And here they are, they're going to grant edit access. So now let's go back to the person that made that request. Here you can see the button is changed to edit. They can just hit edit now. They can choose a tool in which they want to change the PDF with, make that change. And just like that, they can hit save, keeping you in your flow. Now let's talk about this icon, which I did spoil a second ago, but if you were kind of looking across, you probably saw this. This is Microsoft Copilot, and we've brought it to the File Viewer. So you can now use Copilot on over 300 file types, and you can do things such as summarize, you can do Q&A back and forth on different file types, and of course you can generate an FAQ. Let's do a quick demo. So here, I'm in the PDF. I've opened up the Copilot pane. If you don't know how to use Copilot, that's okay, because we have suggestions to make it easier. Not everybody knows how to prompt quite yet, so this will give you a quick way to just get in there and start using it. But in this case, I'm going to just show you how you can use natural language to prompt. In this case, I'm just going to say summarize. Copilot's going to do a little work, build that summary. And just like that, it'll give me a quick summary so I can get up to date on this long document. I can't wait for you to try this. It saves me so much time. You know, I may or may not use it for a lot of these long specs that Steven sends my way.
You said you read them.
I read them. Okay, now back to Steve.
All right, I'm just going to ignore the fact that Michael apparently doesn't read my documents anymore. And instead, I want to start talking to you about how you can manage sharing in M365 as an administrator. Now, when it comes to managing external sharing, there are kind of 4 broad categories that all of our settings fall into. You can control what can be shared. Is it all files in your organization, only specific sites, things like that. You can control who can share. Does everyone have the ability to? Is it only specific people? Is no one allowed to share externally? You can control who can be shared to. Is it everyone in the world? Is it only specific domains? Only everyone in the world except specific domains? And you can control how you can share. Do you want to use anyone links? What is your default link going to be? Is there going to be an expiration policy? And this is just what we have inside of OneDrive and SharePoint. But there are external sharing settings not just there, but in Microsoft Entra, Microsoft Purview, and many more. There are so many settings that let you manage sharing. You can customize the experience to exactly what you need. But it doesn't make for a great talk to just walk through 20 different individual settings. So instead, I'm going to give you the framework that I use when I talk to customers about how to manage collaboration in their organization. And then we'll go into some specific features that show how you can put that framework into action. So there are 4 key steps. Step 1, you're going to establish boundaries. Step 2, you're going to set users up for success. Step 3, you're going to educate. And step 4, you're going to monitor. So let's go into each of these in detail. We'll start with establishing boundaries. This is all about putting in the hard boundaries in your organization that prevent your users from making those really critical mistakes, the things that could damage your business, your reputation, whatever it might be. Now, these requirements come from many different places. They could come from your industry. You might work in a financial institution that has legal laws that you have to comply with or get in trouble for. It could come from discussions with your InfoSec team based on your personal threat environment. And it could come from the type of content you're storing in your organization. If you're storing credit card numbers or healthcare information, those all are going to change your requirements as well. And we have a bunch of different types of policies that will help you build those boundaries into place and set things up. So there are the obvious things, like you can turn off external sharing or restrict it to only specific site collections that are custom built just for external sharing. But you can also do some pretty cool things, like disable external sharing based on the sensitivity labels that have been applied to that container. So let's look at how you might do that. Now to do this, you're going to go into the Microsoft Purview Admin Center, and you're going to create a new label. Now the first thing, you got to pick a name. So I'm going to pick highly confidential, internal only, feels about right. Type in some basic information, descriptions that helps your users understand. And then my favorite part, you get to pick a color, because of course this is highly confidential. We're going to go with that deep dark red so that everyone knows it's dangerous. Next, you get to set the scope of your label. And in this case, we're going to define it just for sites and groups. The other ones have purposes as well, but for the purposes of our demo, we'll limit it there. Because we're doing sites and groups, we can skip this screen about items. And here's where the power really starts to take place. You can define protection as applying to external sharing and conditional access. When you go to this next step and define what that actually means, you can actually make it so that when this highly confidential label gets applied to your site collections, it automatically turns off external sharing. So the moment someone labels your site, external sharing is disabled. Or if you start using some of those tools that maybe default label your libraries or detect sensitive information and label accordingly, that'll also kick in and turn off external sharing. So you can review your policy, create it, and unleash it to your users and get started. So this is just a quick example of how you can use labels and sensitivity to block external sharing, control how sharing happens in your organization, and keep your content secure. So that brings us to step 2, which is setting your users up for success. And in a lot of cases, this is where you get to really kind of express your creative interests and really make your tenant unique to your organization and get those settings right. It's all about giving your users the tools to be successful. And I don't just mean successful collaborating or successful at not sharing and keeping content secure, but you want to find that right balance. You need to help them get their jobs done, but in the most secure manner possible. And we have a bunch of different policies, again, that help you do this. You can do things like choose your default link type so that when a user clicks that copy link button in the dialog, it'll change what link type they get by default. The other links are still available, but you've made sure they're safe by default if they're not thinking about it. And you can do things like set up expiration policies. So let's take a look at one of those expiration policies. So this is the ability to expire external access. In this case, I want all my external access to expire after 90 days. So if a guest isn't attributed, if my owner doesn't come through and say, oh, yep, we're still working with this user, the external guest will lose access. You'll come into the SharePoint Admin Center, open up this kind of more external sharing settings bucket, and find the guest access expiration policy. All set for 90 days, so once a quarter, give or take. Click Save, and I'm good to go. Guest access now expires every 90 days. I invite Michael to my site collection, we start working together, we collaborate. 21 days before that expiration date comes up, I get a notification. Hey, are you still working with Michael? And I can extend him or leave it be. And if I forget about it, if I left the company and no one's managing it, Michael will automatically lose access. This is a great way to make sure that users can still collaborate effectively. They can still work externally, do what they're doing without having to really think about it. But you've now just made sure that no external guest user has access beyond your window without someone pressing that button saying like, yes, I want to work with this user. It's a super powerful feature, and we definitely recommend you take a look at it. So that brings us to step 3, education. We've seen time and time again, if you don't educate your users about the policies that exist in your organization and why they exist, they will find ways around them. It happens way too often. So what you can do is inform your users. You can use a whole product called SharePoint, which does this amazing stuff around pages and portals to help communicate information. And you can even enforce that education in the product in some ways. So let me show you how you would do that. So let's imagine in my organization, I have a training for external access. So I want all my users to go through, I don't know, your half-hour, hour-long training, whatever it might be, helps them learn how to share effectively. Once they've gone through that training, they get added into a security group. As an admin, you can come back into our SharePoint Admin Center here, open up that same bucket again, and configure this who can share policy. It'll pop open this window, and you can choose who is allowed to share externally. I'm going to type in the name of that group. In this case, it's approved for external collaboration, maybe a little on the nose. And I can change what setting I want them to be able to do. Can they share with all authenticated guests? Can they share with anyone links? In this case, I'll pick anyone and click Save. And now, only users who have gone through my training are allowed to share externally inside of my organization. Everyone else gets blocked, and it's all controlled by that one group that is managed in Azure AD, or Entra AD. That brings us to the final step. You've created your boundaries, you've set your users up for success, you've educated them. Now it's time to take advantage of all the tooling that Microsoft provides and monitor. So this is where you get to look for the things that seem a little abnormal. Maybe people are collaborating in a way you didn't expect, maybe there's a leak that's happening, and you're going to use our tooling to go in, find those things, and you'll feed all of that back into those first couple of steps we talked about. Do you need to change your boundaries? Do you need to change your defaults in some place? Do you need to educate your users better? And there are a couple of different ways to do this. You can, of course, use stuff like the Microsoft auditing pipeline to see what events are occurring, build up a knowledge base that way. You can take advantage of the Microsoft Graph Data Connect pipeline, where we spit out a ton of information, the fire hose of it, of who's sharing, who's being shared to, what links are being created. Or you can take advantage of Microsoft Data Access Governance. And I'm going to show you a brief peek of this, and then if you're interested in it, there's a talk on it tomorrow as well that'll go even deeper. So, as part of Data Access Governance, they're introducing a new set of reports called the Oversharing Reports, and they tell you exactly what you would expect. It is all about your most shared content. So on the left, you'll see the kind of base report. It shows you all of your sites, and it shows you which ones have the most permissioned users on them. Probably makes sense that your HR site's going to have most of your company there. But if you see one of those highly confidential sites and it's got a ton of people there, that might be a sign for you to investigate and see what's going on. On the right, you can go in one level deeper and get not just how many total users are there, but also the number of anyone links that have been created and the number of company links that have been created too. These are great tools to help you understand how collaboration is happening in your organization and take the steps to secure your content. So that is kind of the quick guide on how we manage collaboration in Microsoft 365. As I said, there's a ton of content, a ton of settings you can apply, but if you stick to this framework, think about it from a high level, and then dig in deeper with this in mind, it's a much, much easier process than, do I turn on feature A? Do I turn on feature B? Do I turn on feature C? Start here, see how it goes, and let us know what you think. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about Entra B2B, OneDrive, and SharePoint, and the journey we've been on as far as kind of the platform for external sharing and what you might expect in the future. So first up, I want to once again go back in time a little bit. Back in 2013, SharePoint was actually the first product in Microsoft 365 to introduce external access. It was all built off of kind of a API-based hacky thing with Azure AD at the time, and it had this experience. Some of you may recognize this. If you do, I'm sorry. It caused a lot of confusion for people, and we've made it better. In 2017, we introduced SharePoint one-time passcode, explicitly to try and fix a lot of the problems we saw. I talked earlier when I was doing the demo about external sharing about not needing a Microsoft account, not needing to create an account or password. This is where we made that change. Instead of authenticating or creating an account, users could just authenticate with that one-time passcode, access the file, and get to work. We shipped this for files and folders, like I said, in about 2017. But one of the key pieces of feedback we started hearing from customers was that this is great for an end user, but from an admin perspective, I'm not getting guest accounts anymore, which means I can't apply all of my conditional access policies, I can't apply terms of use, multi-factor authentication, all of those types of things. So starting in 2022, we started working with Entra to kind of build a best of both worlds experience. So this was the same one-time passcode experience you saw before. In fact, the demo I did earlier was the Entra B2B version of this, not the SharePoint version. But now, all of your guest users are backed by guest accounts in your directory that you can see, manage, expire, delete, whatever it might be. In 2022, we shipped that feature for files and folders in preview. It defaults to off, which is still the case today. In 2023, we made it so that it was now the default for all new organizations. So if you happen to be an organization that started about June 2023 or beyond, you're actually getting the Entra experience by default. And then just late last year, we deprecated the old, terrible legacy SharePoint Invitation Manager. So this applied to site sharing, it applied to custom role sharing, what's the other one that I can't read? Document library sharing, that's right. So the legacy invitation manager experience is gone completely, and now you'll get Entra B2B in those cases as well. So Entra B2B could have its own 60-minute talk without much issue. They have just as many settings, just as many controls, but the same framework still applies. But let's talk about what's looking ahead, what's going to be coming down the line. So first up, don't panic, because I expect you're going that way. We're not going to move everyone to B2B tomorrow. We're not going to do it later this year. But I want to tell you all that this is the direction we're moving. We want Entra B2B to be the platform for guest collaboration inside of Microsoft 365. Teams is built on top of it. OneDrive and SharePoint are increasingly building on top of it. This is the direction we're going. We're not going there today. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of homework to do instead. First up, it's worth understanding what are your policies that you've set up in your organization for OneDrive and SharePoint. What is in that SharePoint Admin Center? What have you done to control content in your organization? Number two, what have you set up in Entra? And then number three is to start thinking about how you can align those policies so that you have a single unified external collaboration policy for your organization. And then number four, and maybe most importantly, give us feedback. This is going to be a journey as we move customers over to Entra B2B. We think Entra B2B is the right platform for the future, like I said, but we want you to tell us what you think of the experience. Does it meet your needs? Is it working the way you expect? Does it give you the tools you need to manage users? Let us know, and as we start making these changes in the future, we'll be sure to let you know in Message Center and through all of those normal channels, the blog, the podcast, things like that. So, we've gone through a bunch of different content. Hopefully you walk out of this thinking that collaboration is simple. We talked about the sharing experience. We wanted it to be as simple for our users to use as possible. And Michael walked you through how that's possible. We talked about how we're making sharing smarter, how we're helping people be more productive. Not just with Copilot, but with the features we build for everything as a whole. And then we talked about how you can keep content secure, whether it's admin settings, the framework you can use, and all of that. So, we showed you the new sharing dialog, simpler than ever. The sharing settings, which give you all the power at your fingertips when you need it. We talked about how you can make sharing simpler in Teams by helping you identify when links aren't going to work for people and letting you know so you can fix it. We talked about the new manage access experience, which puts people first, makes it easier to see who has access to your content and managing it accordingly. We talked about my awesome walkthrough of how SharePoint works under the covers, what happens when you share, and how Bob likes your file. We talked about how we're bringing that guided tutorial experience inside of the share dialog so it's easier to use, helps your users, and they can figure things out. We talked about how we're making resharing easier, whether it's in Teams or in our share experience as a whole. If you don't have permission, we want to make sure you're still able to get a nice detoured type experience that helps you be successful. We talked about Copilot in the sharing experience, how we're bringing summary creation into the share dialog so you can kind of invoke it in the moment, help people understand your documents as you're moving through. We talked about how we're improving the request files experience, bringing your company's branding, your logos, your colors into the experience, making sharing feel more personal for you. We talked about the new file viewer experience, how it's powered and built for collaboration, focus on content, and all of the great features like Collab Corner that we're bringing into that. We talked about Copilot in File Viewer and the power that is available there. We talked about the framework for managing collaboration, everything you can do, how you can think about it, some of the settings you can use, and all of that greatness. We talked about the oversharing reports, one of the most common featured requests we get, and that we're really excited to start delivering. We talked about Entra B2B, how we're bringing that into OneDrive and SharePoint, what's happened in the past, and what the future might look like. And then we started talking about a recap, and I'm going to stop myself before I recurse too far. Here is the OneDrive roadmap. This is not just sharing. I'll pause here so you can take pictures if you missed it this morning in the OneDrive general session. We are, as Michael said, we are working tirelessly to improve our product constantly, not just in sharing. Last year we shipped the OneDrive Gen 3 experience, kind of giving a facelift to the entire OneDrive experience. It is beautiful and awesome. There's a lot more coming beyond Copilot, beyond sharing. Hopefully you've been catching our sessions throughout this week, and I'll pause one moment until I see phones start to go down. But there's a lot of great stuff coming. We're really excited about it. We have a monthly OneDrive office hours process. This is one of my favorite meetings I think I go to every month. You can scan the QR code here to sign up for it. This is a monthly 1-hour call with the product group. We will walk through that same roadmap you just saw, but you get the updates on a monthly basis. We usually go deep into one particular topic. So we talked about sharing, we talked about Copilot, we talked about when to use OneDrive on the web, when to use the sync client experiences, things like that. It is an awesome meeting. Like I said, it's, I think, my favorite meeting I go to on a monthly basis, getting to talk to all of you, hear your feedback, and learn from all of you as well. Okay, final plug. Sync Up Podcast. As I mentioned, this is the podcast I do with Arvind Mishra. We go behind the scenes on OneDrive. Check it out, subscribe, like, comment, etc. It's awesome. I've got some beanies to give away for folks who come up and ask us questions as we end. And that is our talk today. We covered a lot of stuff. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully it was interesting to all of you. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.